your English podcast.
Okay, so picture this. You're uh you're in the middle of conversation, or you're trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
You spent years studying, you've memorized hundreds of vocabulary lists, you know all the grammar tables.
Right.
But then the moment comes. You walk into a coffee shop, you jump on a call, and you open your mouth to say something simple,
Mm.
and you just freeze.
It's the silent student syndrome. And it's probably the worst feeling in language learning. Your brain just goes blank.
Totally blank.
Or if you do manage to say something, it feels clunky, mechanical.
Yeah, like you're assembling furniture in your head instead of just talking.
You're working so hard, but you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. But here's the thing that gets really interesting. What if the secret to fixing all of that, to finally speaking fluently, isn't about practicing speaking? What if it is the exact opposite?
It sounds so counterintuitive, doesn't it? But we're going to explore why your ears are actually the engine for your mouth. And later on, we're going to break down this specific, slightly strange technique called the fake interview that really forces your brain to connect hearing and speaking.
It's a fascinating psychological hack. So welcome back to your English podcast. My name is Alex.
And my name is Nina.
This deep dive today is really for anyone who feels stuck. Yeah, if you know the rules of English, but you feel like your speech is kind of robotic or just slow.
If it doesn't sound like you. We're going to unpack why listening is the real foundation of all the other skills, reading, writing, and of course, speaking.
We'll also look at a daily routine, just 20 minutes, that honestly beats hours of cramming.
And we'll give you some practical tools to sort of rewire how your brain is processing English.
So I guess the place to start is the root cause. Why do so many of us have this gap between what we know on paper and what we can actually say?
I think we have to look at the traditional school model. I mean, it makes sense why they do it.
Right.
You're sitting at a desk, you have a textbook, the teacher writes a rule on the board. It's all very visual. You're memorizing verb lists. Eat, ate, eaten like they're math formulas.
Yeah, you're treating language like data to be stored, not a skill to be, performed. It's like studying sheet music for years, but never actually listening to the song.
That's the perfect analogy. And it creates a very specific pathway in your brain. When you learn with your eyes first, you're always trying to reverse engineer the sound from the text.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you see the letters, you apply a grammar rule you memorized, and then you try to produce a sound. It's a slow cognitive process, too slow for a real conversation.
Which explains that. That pause,
Yeah.
that latency before you speak. You can read a sentence in your head perfectly, but when you say it, it just sounds off.
You don't have the music of the language.
The music.
Yeah, linguists call it prosody. Rhythm, intonation, stress. Textbooks can't teach you that. Fluency comes from how words connect to each other.
Can you give an example of that? Because I think students often blame themselves for not understanding native speakers.
Oh, totally. A textbook teaches you to say, I am going to the store. Every word's separate.
Clear.
But a native speaker will just say, I'm going to go to the store.
Right.
So your brain is listening for going to, but your ears are hearing gonna. And that mismatch causes that freeze.
So the relief here for anyone listening is that it's not because you're bad at languages.
Not at all. It just means you were trying to build the roof of the house, the speaking, before you built the foundation, the listening.
I just want to pause on that. For everyone listening, take a second and think about your English study routine. Are you spending like 80% of your time looking at text and rules?
and only 20% actually listening. Because
Yeah.
if you flip that, everything changes. The whole process changes.
Okay, so let's dig into that. How does that actually work in the brain? Because I think a lot of people here just listen and they think.
Oh, yeah, the learn English in your sleep scam,
Exactly. They think they can just have it on in the background and they'll wake up fluent.
which is, I hate to say it, complete nonsense. We're not talking about some kind of magic osmosis. We're talking about active listening. There's a process called consolidation.
Consolidation. Okay, bring that down for us.
Think of your brain like it's downloading files. When you study a grammar rule from a book, it's just a fact. It's temporary memory. But when you hear that same rule used naturally in a podcast or a story,
Uh,
your brain has this aha moment. It connects the abstract idea to a real sound. It moves it from just being a theory to being a tool you can use.
it moves it from explicit memory to implicit memory.
Precisely. I remember when I started really getting into audiobooks. Before that, the language felt so flat to me, just code on a page. But listening opened up the emotional side. You hear sarcasm, excitement, things text just can't show you.
You're picking up on the intention behind the words, not just the definition.
Exactly. You can read the word really on a page. But hearing it spoken really versus really, I mean, those are two completely different things.
Totally different worlds.
And that's where the speed comes from. I hit this plateau where I just couldn't speak any faster. So I made myself listen consciously every single day. And suddenly, my speaking just, it unlocked. I wasn't translating anymore.
You were just retrieving phrases you'd heard.
1,000 times, yeah. It debunks that idea that learning has to be painful, that you have to be suffering with grammar charts.
Right?
Listening makes it feel natural. It stops being a math problem. If you want to stop suffering and start learning naturally, this is such a key idea. And if this is resonating with you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives on this.
Okay, so we've established the why. Listening builds this huge database of sounds you can pull from. But let's get practical. How do we actually do it? Because just turning on the radio and understanding, like 5% of it, that's just noise. It's overwhelming.
It is. You need a strategy to make the input understandable. And for that, the most powerful tool is what we call the combo strategy.
The combo strategy. Okay, I like it. What are we combining?
We're basically getting your eyes and your ears to work together. The technique is simple. Read a book while you listen to the audiobook version at the same time,
At the same time.
simultaneously. Or you watch a video with subtitles, but, and this is the important part, you focus on the audio. You just use the text as a safety net.
Huh. Why does doing both at once work better than just one or the other?
Because it closes that gap in real time. If you just read, you might be mispronouncing words in your head. If you just listen, you might not recognize a word you actually know how to spell.
But when you do both,
Your brain locks the visual symbol to the correct sound instantly.
it also forces you to keep up, I'd imagine. When I'm just reading, I can stop and get distracted.
Yeah.
But the narrator, they just keep going.
Yes. It forces your brain to process English at a natural speed. You stop overanalyzing every single word. You just absorb the flow.
So here's a little micro challenge for you listening. For your next study session, don't just read. Find the audio version, an article, a book, whatever. Try doing both at once and just notice what happens.
And this brings us to the big question, the open loop from the start. How does sitting there listening actually help me speak?
Right. Because you can't just be a professional listener forever. Eventually, you have to open your mouth.
And this is where we pivot from input to output. This is the fake interview technique. It sounds a little weird, I admit.
A little schizophrenic, maybe.
Yeah, a little. But it's so effective. The more you listen, the more patterns you absorb. But you have to activate that knowledge. You have to bridge the gap between words you understand and words you can actually use.
So the first step in this is something you talk about a lot, audio notes.
Yes. Instead of writing a diary, which is slow and visual, just record your thoughts on your phone. But here's the part people hate. You have to listen back to it.
Ugh, the cringe factor. No one likes the sound of their own voice. I still struggle with it.
It's so visceral, isn't it? But it's the fastest feedback loop there is. When you're speaking, your brain is overloaded. You don't hear your own mistakes.
But when you listen back,
You become your own teacher. You hear, oh, I missed the says there, or wow, my intonation was really flat.
so the fake interview is the next level of that. How does that work?
Okay, you pretend you're being interviewed. Maybe you're on a talk show, whatever. Ask yourself a question. So, what's your opinion on climate change? And then you answer it out loud and you record it.
And the twist is you're not just practicing speaking, you're creating your own listening material.
Exactly. You listen back, you compare your rhythm to the native speakers you've been listening to. You can actually hear the gap. And then this is the crucial bit, you re-record it, trying to close that gap.
It's a loop. Listen to natives, speak, listen to yourself, correct, and then speak again.
You could even do a weekly review. Record a short summary of the new words you learned that week, and then listen to that recording a few times. You're reinforcing the learning with your own voice.
I love that. It makes you an active creator, not just a passive consumer of English.
What about you listening right now? Have you ever recorded your own voice in English? It's scary, I know, but just try it for 1 minute. You can delete it right after. That 1 minute of listening back is worth an hour of just talking.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there's one last piece of this puzzle. You can have all the best techniques, but if the execution is wrong.
It all falls apart. This is about the power of intention.
Right. We live in this multitasking world. I'm so guilty of this. Listening to a podcast while I'm washing the dishes, checking my email.
Which is fine for, just entertainment. But for active learning, it's a trap. There is a huge difference between background noise and intentional listening.
You always hear that 20 minutes of focus is better than 5 hours of background noise. It sounds mathematically wrong, but
Yeah. It's neurologically right. In those 5 hours of multitasking, your brain just filters out the English. It becomes white noise. But if you sit down for just 20 minutes and do nothing else but listen, that's deep work. That is when your brain actually changes.
so consistency and focus beat intensity and duration.
Every single time. It's about that intention to learn, just a little bit every day.
And what about the content itself? Because people force themselves to listen to, like, boring market reports because they think it's educational.
Oh, that's a terrible idea. If you're bored, you just tune out. The best input is what we call compelling input. Choose stuff you actually like. If you love soccer, listen to soccer commentary.
And if it's too hard, what then?
Then you just save it for later. Don't stress about it. Find something a little easier. The goal is to build confidence, not to feel defeated every time you study.
That's such an important point. We put so much pressure on ourselves. I have to understand the BBC News. No, maybe just start with a kid's story. It's okay.
It's totally okay. Your brain is a pattern matching machine. Just give it enough data that it can understand, and it will do the work.
You know, if you have a friend who's studying for hours with grammar books and just not getting results, share this episode with them. It might honestly save them a lot of time.
And a lot of frustration. It might make learning fun again, which is really the whole point.
Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. We've gone from the classroom all the way to a fake recording studio.
We started with the idea that the visual school model fails us because it ignores the foundation, which is sound.
Right, you have to hear it to say it. Then we talked about the combo method reading and listening at the same time to connect the words to the sounds.
And we broke down the fake interview, recording yourself to bridge that gap between understanding and actually speaking.
And finally, that idea of intention. That 20 minutes of focused listening is worth so much more than hours of background noise.
The main takeaway, I think, is this. Your brain is built to learn language through sound. It's biological. So just trust that process. Stop trying to engineer your sentences.
And start listening to the flow. Stop building. Start listening.
Exactly.
That's our mantra.
Thank you so much for listening to your English podcast today. Start listening actively, be kind to yourself, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.